Welcome back to another episode of Freeform AI. My name is Michael Burke. I do data engineering and machine learning at Databricks. I'm joined by my co-host. His name is
Ben Wilson. I am learning React to make less terrible UI at Databricks.
specifically dropdowns.
Yeah, learning a lot about combo boxes and how to make them a little bit more fluid user experience.
I am truly envious. Today, we're talking about knowledge transfer throughout an organization. The basis of this is in both of our jobs, we are not the dumbest person in the room, although usually near the bottom. Uh, and there's often scenarios where we have amazing opportunities to learn from more intelligent, more senior, more tenured, and more experienced people. And the converse of that is there are often more junior people who might not know as much. And so there's a two-way like transfer of knowledge, both from a seniority and an experience perspective, but also sometimes it's valuable to teach people who might know more than you. So lots of different topics to discuss, but the primary thesis is discussing how knowledge transfer actually works. Now, before we do that, Ben, let's say you are in your current position as a software engineer at Databricks, or I'm in my current position as an AI forward deployed engineer at Databricks. Why should we care about helping others?
Excellent question, man. If you don't help other people kind of upscale themselves, and this isn't a force thing, this is more like I'm here as a resource to provide additional context to make you better where you might need help. Um, if it's more of a kind of like a selfless thing where you're like, I'm just trying to help out where I can because I've done like what the mistake that they're about to make, I've done before and I learned it the hard way. Or I saw somebody else do something like this and I have context that might help this person out. There's a lot of reasons to do that. Uh, Chief among them, which is kind of selfish, is like, I'm going to help this person because later on they're going to help me when I do something stupid, uh, which builds camaraderie amongst a team of people. They're like, hey, I'm helping this person do their job better, so they're going to help me do my job better, and that builds like team cohesion. People trust one another because they're like, everybody's selfless. They're just trying to make the team succeed, or the product succeed, or the company succeed. It's just a really positive work environment. You're like, I have other people's backs. They have my back. I feel safe. Like that's just good, right? The second reason to do it is over a long enough time horizon. If if you're working on more and more complicated things that are like greenfield, like nobody on the team's ever done this thing before, you could get into a place where you're working on solutions and systems that it's pushed you to a point where you've had to learn a bunch of new stuff and gain up a bunch of skills. If nobody else has any context of what you're working on, how are they going to review it? They might look at what you built and be like, that looks complicated. If they're honest, they'll say, I have like no context on how to even look at this. If you don't have any peers that can even like spend some time and come up to speed and really grok what the hell that you've built, you're now shipping unreviewed code or an unreviewed solution, which based on my own personal experience, that I haven't felt that once at Databricks, like in engineering at Databricks. But I have felt that many times in the past, and it's scary, and it never ends well because inevitably I do make mistakes, and I find out maybe the next day, maybe 6 months later, that what I built had flaws, like serious flaws that should have been caught during review time,
Mm-hmm.
but nobody wanted to admit that they're like, either they admitted that they don't know what they're doing, they don't want to review it, or that they're like, looks good to me, stamp. That's scary, right? You get no comments on like a complicated PR, and people, you just have like 5 stamps. You're like, there's no way this is that good. Like nobody can find any problems with this. Like now I'm scared.
Yeah. And one other thing that I think you missed, well, two other things. One, it can just be like you're a human. You'll feel good if you help people sometimes. Sometimes not, though. And then the other one that I think is super, super important is when you do knowledge transfer, you build your replacements. And so if you have people that can step into your current role, you're freed up to do other things. And typically in a fast growing or even like a stagnant organization, there will be mobility, whether it be lateral or up. And having people that can fill your current role so that you can move sideways or up is really, really helpful. Is there anything else that we should think about for why someone in the most Machiavellian way should help others via knowledge transfer?
I mean, Machiavellian is that would be like you're demonstrating your value to an organization or to a team. If you're the
That's a
person
good
who's
one.
uplifting other people, you're irreplaceable in the eyes of management. You're like, hey, this person is like a a force multiplier because everyone respects how much they help out. Everyone respects this person's humility, and everybody wants to work with them. So you're indicating that you're trying to do what's best for your peers, which is, if you're the person who's working to build team cohesion in this way, uh, yeah, managers love that because you're now building a great team culture of people who want to come and do something amazing and hard. And it's just a win-win for you. Like
Yeah.
it can't go poorly for you if you approach work in this way.
Yeah. And actually, that brings up a great additional point, which is you're helping the team. Like, if you care about the team or the organization and your value is actually being provided via teaching, like, you're making the organization better. So I think that's the sixth reason. Anything else?
I mean, you also gain a lot of political capital if you need to expend that. And that's another Machiavellian, like, dark side benefit. Just like if you are in a place eventually in your organization where you're hitting resistance from somebody and you need to, you know, phone a friend who's a couple of levels up or several levels up. If you're widely regarded as somebody who is a great team player and you're enabling, you're working collectively with other people on your team to make everybody else better and they're making you better, you're seen in a very favorable light higher up. Like they will be aware of what you're doing because this isn't that common. Like you don't usually find teams where like everybody's getting along really well and everybody's supporting one another. But when you do find that, management kind of sees that as like, there's something special with this team. We don't want to mess with them. Uh, we want to just let them continue cooking and give them even harder problems because they seem to enjoy that. Uh, yeah, if you need to cash in that capital, it's an easy transaction.
Okay, cool. So we've sort of laid the groundwork of why you might want to do this. Now, next topic that I would like to cover is what are the minimum requirements within a team for you to be able to do knowledge transfer? Like, and I guess flipping this question on its head, what are the culture tenets that would make this impossible?
You need like foundational mechanisms for that enable this. So it's really hard to do if you're in a technical capacity. You're building models, you're writing software, you're working on some sort of technical problem that requires some sort of structural way of reviewing one another's work. The first foundation is you need tools that enable that. You need the ability for other people to see your work before it ships into a place where people can use it. If you don't use those tools, and these tools have been around for a long time, uh, if you're doing software engineering or model building and you're not using Git to check in source code, or if you're just pushing the master and not filing pull requests, you don't even have the infrastructure that supports this. So then it becomes almost reactive. If you're in an environment like that, like you build something, you think it meets all the requirements, you check it in, or you don't even use version control, you're just like pushing to production. When things go wrong, people just point the finger at you saying, you broke this, go fix it. The perception people get of that is like, okay, problems happened, it's this person's problem. Other people, in order to, in an environment like that, it becomes just a group of individuals working on similar problems instead of a team. And fingers get pointed, blame gets assigned. If you make more errors than other people, people will point that out and focus on that. It's unhealthy. Like, it's a really terrible team dynamic to maintain.
Right. So we definitely need the infrastructure to do reviews. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need managerial buy-in to do reviews?
If there's, I mean, the only time you should be bringing in a manager to solve something is if you're proposing this like infrastructure solution, or you and a couple of other people on a team are doing this, and then everybody else is resisting it. Then
No,
you
my
get
question
management
is
to come in and say, like, we think this is a good idea. Do you agree? Should we make this policy? Let the manager decide.
my question is more about, let's say we currently don't do reviews, and you, Ben Wilson, would like to start doing reviews. Should you run that by your manager?
For sure. I mean, before I even bring up a topic like that, I would go and do my homework. I would write down an analysis of what I think is going on in the team environment. And then, and it's not full of blame. It's not like this person does this person, just an objective analysis of how work happens. And then a proposal of how to basically make it work even better. And in that proposal is structural reviews. And that's not just catching bad things happening. Like, we're going to prevent bad code from being released. That is a primary reason. But the other ancillary benefit to that, which I would argue is even more important, is other people get context on ways of doing things. You learn by like just watching. Wow, this is really clever. Like, this is really well done. And I can identify that this is really well done. I'm going to use a similar pattern in the future. So the whole team, by the process of reviewing stuff, of reviewing each other's work, you all collectively share knowledge in a very efficient way.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, cool. Any other requirements, like trying to think of really toxic cultures where this is just like not worth it and you should probably stick to yourself?
The team has got to get away from egocentric work.
Mm.
If you're in it for glory in a technical field and you're working on actual hard problems and everybody else is doing that, it's like, I'm here just to make my promotion so I can have this new fancy job title, and that's what I'm here for. That's like the worst mentality to have. You know, if you're in a work environment where your measure of success is how the team is doing in shipping stuff, and are you meeting the product requirements for your customers and your users, nobody cares if you're a hero. In fact, people don't really see anybody as a hero. It's like, that's, you either ship or you don't. You either ship good stuff that people use and then nobody really focuses on it. They might remember, like, oh, this is a really good implementation. I remember this person did this. But nobody's vocally saying that. They might give you praise when you release something and be like, this was awesome, great work. Don't let that go to your head. It's like, the way to process that, and the way that my peers do when we all give each other praise about something that they did really, really well, it's validation that your ethos is aligned to the craft ethos, which is, I'm in it not for personal glory. I'm in it to build the best thing that I can that solves problems in the most optimal way and make sure that people get value out of my effort.
Do you think you get more personal glory with that attitude?
Probably, but it's not something that I seek out. And it sometimes, like, I can say that in the org I'm in now, people almost like visibly cringe when people do hero worship to them and you compliment somebody effusively. Like they may have built something amazing. And if you're the person in a meeting that's like calling that person out, being like, this was absolutely incredible. Like everybody needs to check out what this person did. This is so awesome. You will see that person get so effing embarrassed. Like they will shrink into themselves because they hate it. Nobody wants to be seen as like, oh, I'm a god of software engineering. Nobody wants that. And it's not like, oh, if people think of me this way, then I'm going to get dumped on with like all this extra work. It comes from a very deep rooted place of like, yeah, thanks for the recognition that I didn't screw this up, but everybody else around me is super good and I don't deserve this. I don't deserve like effusive praise because did you see what this other person did? Did you see like this other cool thing that this other team built? Like that's kind of the mentality. It's like everybody wants to be humble. Or they just are humble because you see greatness all around you within your team, outside of your team. It's like it just feels unearned when you get excessive praise for something. So you
Makes
just kind
sense.
of don't focus on it. Don't let it go to your head. You're just like, all right, you're focusing more on like, here's all the cool stuff that I learned how to do in this project. And I'm prepared for the next thing that comes along that I can use all this new knowledge or reference to what I did before. So that's going to go even better and easier and faster. Or, hey, now that I know how to do all this stuff, when somebody in my team has questions, I can actually help them out and answer some of their questions.
Okay. Heard. So we've discussed why you should do this, whether you're just a really good person or you're looking for personal gain or you want to help your team. There are a variety of reasons. There's some base requirements. Now let's get into how you would actually do knowledge transfer. So we talked about a few axes of this decision. One was the ROI on, or the timeline on your ROI. So do you have a week to fix something, or do you have 5 years and you're looking to sort of upskill long term? Additionally, who are you going towards? Is it a senior in the work chain? Is it a junior in the work chain? Um, so let's chat through each of those. I'm most curious about senior. Let's say you have someone who is technically a higher level than you, regardless of what company you work at, there's probably some sort of hierarchy. How would you go about teaching someone in their area of core competency, who at least perceived area of core competency, who's senior than you?
I don't think anybody, at least in the work environment that I work in now, nobody cares about what somebody's job title is. Um, and there's no like expectation that, oh, because this person's a senior staff engineer, they should know everything about this thing. Nobody has that mentality. It's more like, does this person have experience in this domain? Have they worked on something like this? And I'm going to ask the question and or I'm going to make a statement or a design of something. And that very senior person is usually going to be very honest and very humble. And they might reach out and be like, this is super cool. I don't know much about that. They might go and do some reading and do their own research to kind of get up to speed to make develop a mental model that they can use to provide constructive feedback. Um, but it's usually not something where you're super junior, somebody's way more senior. That senior person gets assigned a project that is in a domain that you know a ton about. the first thing that's going to happen in that scenario is they're probably going to reach out to you if everybody knows that you're the expert on this. And they'll ask you for like, hey, I just wanted to like have a meeting with you, pick your brain on some stuff. And you'll probably get some very intelligent questions leveled to you that you'll know instantly, like this person has been doing this for years. They know the question, they know where all the landmines are in this project, and they just want specific, like targeted answers to prevent their project from going awry. And
Yeah.
that, like, you're going to find that senior person reaching out to you to get knowledge. So it's not like you have to go out and be like, well, this person's so much more like senior than me. They don't know what they're doing. I got to reach out to them to teach them. Not going to happen in a professional organization that's devoted to craft.
Yeah. That's a really interesting distinction between the facts that someone knows and the ability that someone has to learn. Typically, the higher you get, the more abstracted your knowledge becomes. And of course, you have built things with like very tangible facts, but you have worked on a lot of hopefully different things and have more experience. And so you can see patterns and commonalities that a more junior person might not know. So just because you don't know this specific topic super well doesn't really reflect anything about your quality or experience. Are you hinting at that?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what it is. It's you nailed it, man. Like that, it's that pattern recognition. You know, if you're 6 months into a profession, like as a software engineer, for instance, you'll have done 3, 4 medium-sized projects that are probably all within one domain. By the time you're 12, 15 years into that profession, you'll have done hundreds of projects spanning across maybe a dozen different domains. So you'll have seen enough stuff to be like, okay, I remember I screwed this up when I was like 4 years in. It's almost like you develop that pattern of like knowing where you don't have knowledge so that you can rapidly scale up to know where all the risks are with this thing, where you've seen enough patterns of building like, oh, how many REST APIs have I created? 400. Okay. I know the pattern here. I know like what the backend database data model needs to look like in order to satisfy the end use case, whether it's like an SDK or it's a UI, or how many users are going to be hitting this? What's the rate of change of this data? Like what data structure do I need? You're going to have a good intuitive sense of that, and you'll be rubber ducking inside your own head about like testing things out. But if somebody else who's more junior just built something highly adjacent to this that maybe you're integrating with or you're going to be using, and you look at what they did and you're like, why did they do it that way? Your thought isn't, man, this person's an idiot. It's more like, there's some reason why they did this way. And this was approved by like 7 people who have like deep institutional knowledge. I need to reach out to this person to make sure that I cover what I'm doing in the same way. 15-minute conversation, you get all the dirty laundry given to you, and you're like, sweet, thanks. Now I can like adjust my design to make sure that I avoid that pitfall. And that's exactly like how a senior person approaches projects. It's
So
like
it's
efficiency.
right. Yeah, it seems like communication towards a senior person should be very direct, very concise. You damn well better be right. Or if you're not right, like, and they're nice people, great. If not, they might question why you're questioning their work. But just be efficient about it. They might ask very targeted questions, and hopefully they'll incorporate your feedback really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, and when we're talking about feedback through a review system, um, I've never seen in engineering somebody who's super senior file a PR where a junior engineer asks a question. It's usually not, hey, please fix this. Like that tone would not go over well. Nobody does that type of stuff. It's more like, I'm going to ask a leading question here because I'm wondering if this is done incorrectly, and provide a suggestion. that junior person is usually humble enough to realize there could be a reason why this is built this way. And it's an opportunity to learn from the senior person who just designed that and built it that way. And that junior person now has some new knowledge about like, oh, I never even thought of that. Like, cool. Uh, and if that junior person was correct, the senior person will usually be like, thank you so much for catching this. I'm going to fix this right now. Awesome. Like, great job on like making sure that the implementation is better. It's like, it's just shared gratitude and like shared learning. Everybody's learning from one another like a healthy system.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, let's skip lateral, I think, because it's less interesting. What about junior? So let's say you're sort of mid-level, you're working with people who have less experience than you. How would you think about doing knowledge transfer?
That should be more directed. So if you're a more senior person and a junior person is like clearly struggling on something, do not attack them. Like that, don't even make the appearance that you're attacking them. It's not productive. All you're doing is stressing this person out and making them feel like an idiot. And that's not the intention. The intention is I want to convey to you in my words and my like either spoken or written that I'm here for you. We'll work on this together. Maybe it's not we're working on this like typing together, but it's more like I'm going to give you some guidance on how to make this better based on my experience or my like here's what I think would be a better solution here or a simpler solution. And you're doing that to upscale that person. You want to make that person a senior person as soon as possible. You want to see them succeed because the more they do, the better that they get at their craft, the better the product is. The more stuff they're going to ship, the higher the quality of what they're building, lower maintenance burden. There's like so many benefits to being like that. And if you're building a positive relationship by being friendly, you don't have to be like best friends with people. You don't have to like, you know, praise them unnecessarily in like a review. Give credit where credit is due. If you notice something really cool, leave a comment like awesome job, like something like this is really well thought out. And in the case where it's criticizing it, make sure that they understand that it's not them that's being criticized. It's their work on the craft. Know that they're early on in that phase of learning. Even if they're shipping stuff, they're still learning. So you can help them not like be able to mentally dissociate the difference between them as a human being versus the product of their craft. And once they can do that, once they can be like, this is not personal, this is not an attack on me, this is somebody wanting to make sure that we're doing the right thing here, they can grow even faster because they don't have that stupid ego in the way of like, I am defined, my self-value worth is defined as people's perception of the things that I produce. It's nonsense. It's just work
Common
towards the
though.
craft. I mean, it's a default human reaction. And the key to culture in a team like that is to break that habit. Make it so that, hey, we're all fallible and we're here to protect each other, protect the product,
Y-
protect the craft.
Yeah. I'm currently reading the book Radical Candor. It's actually so far sick. It's a rec from our CEO Ali. He like made that a
Mm-hmm.
must read book early on at Databricks, and then
Yep.
Brooke, who runs our current team, highly recommended it as well. And I was skeptical at first because it's like I don't know.
Another
It's
business BS
yeah,
book. It's
but
not.
it's actually pretty freaking solid.
Mm-hmm.
So highly recommend. But I'm only like a quarter of the way through. But one of the points that you just brought up was super relevant. Well, 2 points. One is that separating feedback from who the person is super important. Like actions are super malleable, and if you make it clear that like via your feedback style that there's a disconnect between who you are and how you act, that's really beneficial, and then it makes communication a lot more efficient.
Yes.
Um, So that's one really important point. And then the second important point still sticks with me, although it's only like a month old from since I read it. The author of the book gave her like business partner a compliment that he was a good little league coach, and um, the partner was like, "All right, great, like thank you so much." And they revisited it a week later, and the partner was like, the author asked the partner, "What did you think of that compliment?" Because they're weird and talk about things like that. And the partner said, "I thought it was disingenuous because I know you don't like baseball." And the author was super surprised. She thought that this comment went over really well, and it was received in a genuine manner. And she realized that she wasn't eating her own dog food and actually using the strategies that she was writing about, because the feedback wasn't specific. It was just a general compliment. And so she reiterated with specific feedback, and it went over much better. And so that's a really good example of giving real time, very specific feedback makes it seem like the issue is the behavior and not the person. If you just are very targeted and make that the culture, it tends to go over really, really well. And by making it specific, it's actionable instead of these generalizations like, you did a bad job. That could reflect that person's character or persona. But
Mm-hmm.
on this line of code, you did this because of unknown reason. Maybe we should do it this way. That's so specific and that's so action oriented that it goes over much better.
Yeah,
So,
because you're you're conveying that you spent the time to understand the mechanism,
exactly.
whether it's positive or negative, and you're giving somebody behavioral reinforcement, not something that's that can be perceived as you're awesome as a human or you suck as a human. It's more like the thing that you did here, here's why it was good or here's why it was bad. When you hear that as feedback, you now associate it with the actions that you took at that time, and you can learn from that very effectively. Be like, oh, I didn't know that this was like going to be a problem. Noted. I will go fix it right now. And then right after it's fixed, you as the person providing feedback should say, thank you for addressing this particular thing. I saw what you did to fix this. This looks amazing. Excellent work. Thank you for like focusing on this. That's the reinforcement loop cycle that a healthy team is going to have.
How prescriptive do you get with curating work and experiences so that people can learn
Curating my own work and experiences.
their work? So let's say you're a team lead or a project lead and you are looking to delegate so that work gets done, but you also are looking to upskill them for the future. And there's sort of this trade off of immediate returns where if you want it really fast, you doing it is probably the most efficient way. But if you want long term benefit for the team and the organization, you want to delegate things that bring people out of their comfort zone and have them learn. So, how prescriptive are you with this trade off? Is it like something intuitive that you just do based on the priorities of the project? What's your approach?
So there's in like how we do stuff. We don't ever have like an emergency thing where a senior person has the ability to just step in and just do it. You have to plan stuff. Like you don't want to be in that situation. It does happen, but it's more like, hey, we just got a security vulnerability report. Everybody else is busy. I can knock this out in an hour to fix this. I'm just going to file a PR instead of overburdening somebody else with like having to get up to speed with this. If it's tactical, yeah, we do that all the time. But we'll ping that person for review so that they can be like, oh, yeah, I see what you did here. This is solid. I learned something. But when you're talking about a large scale project that has 3 or 4 people working on it and you're the person leading this thing, you have to know who those people are that are going to be involved. If you don't, you're now in dangerous territory because you could be setting somebody up for like giving them the most simple stuff for their own skill level and it just feels almost like drudgery for them, or they bang it out super quick while somebody else could have benefited more from going through that process. So if you know the the talents of or the experience level of everybody and you've been working with them for a while, usually stuff is assigned in accordance with what that person's capabilities are at that time and try to go a little bit over what they have done in the past and what is their temperament as well. Sometimes you just ask them because usually they're your peers, like, hey, is this part of this project something that you're interested in? Like, do you want to do this? Do you want to learn this? Sometimes you'll get from people like, I was actually hoping I could work on this other thing because that's really interesting and I know nothing about it, but I've done some reading and I kind of understand what I need to do. And you're like, sweet, go do that, please. Have fun, enjoy the experience. What you don't want to do is have it be that like, okay, this person's never done this before and there's a lot of nuance to it, but they're really good at this other stuff and you just assign it to them. And then they get it and they'll do it, but they may be working 18-hour days for like the next 3 weeks trying to figure out how to mentally work through this problem. And it's better to have that conversation up front. Ask them, are you comfortable with doing this? Is this something that interests you? Now, if it's just
Yeah.
you and one other person and you're the far more senior person, it's a little bit easier to target sections. You have to plan the project to understand what can be compartmentalized and then give them something that is going to push them through this project for professional growth, but also not have that sort of, distanced approach where it's like, hey, you got to get good. Like, here's a really hard part of this, figure it out. That's just dumping so much stress on that person who's more junior. They might get it done and surprise you. They might completely mess it up and require like a complete rework of everything they did. So it's really important if there's a large experience dynamic to be like heavily involved. Check in every day. Ask them, how are you feeling about this? How's it like, how are things going with the project? Are you stuck on anything? Like, how do we need to pivot, like to move or work on something else right now? You know, ask for like frequent code check-ins and stuff so you can kind of gauge their progress on stuff. Because it's about delivering the project, but it's also about making sure that you're not stressing somebody out.
Hmm. Yeah, there's this sort of trade-off of being really prescriptive and saying do these 5 things, uh, versus being very open-ended and letting people explore. And I thought that there were like very clear rules for what to do when, but I'm learning everybody is so freaking different and you should just customize to what the people like. Like not just subject matter, but also how they work. So I've changed my strategy a little bit to have more frequent check-ins, specifically over calls, and I freaking hate calls, but it is worth it. Like having that face-to-face interaction where you can see someone say yes in the many different ways that someone could say yes versus no in the many different ways that someone could say no. Reading between those lines and determining, are they someone that just wants to help out and doesn't really have preferences, or do they have specific preferences in a certain area, but know they should say yes? Those are very different types of yeses, and you can only get that over a call or ideally in person. Okay, cool. I think we have a pretty solid strategy. Before we close, are there any other things that you think are worth calling out from a knowledge transfer perspective?
I mean, the biggest thing, like a big driving force for me, has always been, no matter how many years I've been doing stuff that's technical, always maintaining that like level of humility to always want to learn from other people and always want to push myself into something that I'm like, there's no way I can figure this out, or this is going to be really hard. I got to do a lot of research. and I'm probably going to screw this up, but I'm going to just keep on working at it. Keep a humble mindset and always be hungry to learn the next thing, because it's not just for your own personal gain. It's, you could be somebody who's helping other people out, and it does feel good when it's like everybody's helping each other out. You're just like, man, this is awesome. We're doing something cool together. Feels a lot better than, damn, I'm so good. Look at this awesome thing that I built. Why isn't everybody praising me? Hey, where did everybody go? Like, different mindset, uh, the healthier approach will make you feel like you've contributed something meaningful.
Yeah, well said. All right, I will summarize. We talked about a lot. But there was basically a 3-step process that we followed. The first is, why the hell should you care about knowledge transfer and helping your team? Well, a bunch of reasons, but some ones that stuck out to me: create a culture that's collaborative. It's just more fun to be in a culture where people work together. Second, build your replacements. If you want to lateral or move upwards, it's really helpful to not be the only person that can do the current job. If someone can slot into whatever you're doing, you're redundant, and therefore you can move on to the next thing. And people confuse that with job security. So think through that and really determine if being the only person that can do the thing is actually what you want. Next, you can demonstrate your value and thereby gain political capital. And then finally, you're just helping the team. If you care about the team and the company, it's probably a good idea to improve where you can. Requirements for this, for knowledge transfer, include generally tools and infrastructure for this, and then also a lack of egocentric. So if people are very siloed and are not willing to take feedback, it's probably going to be pretty hard to give that feedback. And then for execution, if someone is senior to you, just be direct and try to be right so you're not wasting time. But it's totally fine if you're not exactly giving the precise feedback that a senior person would want. And they might have very fast and targeted questions. For junior, it's a little bit more kindness oriented, and you need to be aware of the power dynamics. So enter with the goal of helping them and focus on the action, not who they are as a person. And if you're able to assign work, try to assign slightly out of someone's comfort zone so they have the ability to learn, but also ensure it's something that they're interested in. And having frequent touch points on what they're interested in and whether they're learning is super, super valuable. Anything else?
No, perfect summary, man.
Sweet. All right. Until next time, it's been Michael Burke and my co host,
Ben Wilson.
and have a good day, everyone.
We'll catch you next time.